The other day in Orgrimmar, I was looking for directions on how to get to Revendreth. I wanted to ask my fellow champions, but right, it's empty. Because everyone's dead, sort of, or it's the alpha, whatever. So I thought maybe, just maybe, the local guard might know what's up, so I find one who's just minding his own business. I go up to him and suddenly he snaps his head at me like,
"The hell are you looking at, punk?"
I'm just like, I just want to know how to get to Revendreth, and he's like,
"Beat it. I don't know nothing about nothing."
Jerk. So I go to the guy next to him. He seems more, well-traveled. So I go up to him and suddenly he snaps at me like,
"I could really use the bathroom.
I'm like, really?
I haven't used the bathroom since the cataclysm."
And that's it. That's like the end of the story. That really is the gag for the week.
That's so uninspired. You seem worn out.
Well, it was either that or another round of Torghast puns. If Torghast were to suck, it would be a Snorghast. A total Borghast. Absolutely torable. A Torzaster.
Literally Palace of the Dead 2.0.
Okay, that's not even a pun.
Blizz even stole the word shadow. Like, come on.
Really, we're not going there, Bob. Hey, it's Soul and my funny hat. Welcome back to another episode of Warcraft Weekly, the show that this one guy doesn't like, but, well, thanks for coming anyway. We've got another barrel full of news to catch up on, so we'll get right to it, but not before paying tribute to the incredible sponsors, including newcomer Laura. There's also the Twitch subs and Twitch gifting maniacs like Kylan who help me keep bringing you Warcraft news, because really, what the heck else would I be doing?
Playing Palace of the Dead.
No. This week brought us a new Shadowlands alpha build, which brought us to Revendreth, the new zone which will actually be the fourth and final leveling zone before we know life Torghast like it's a drug, and we can't help but crave for more ghast. Yeah, the puns cannot be stopped. Non-spoiler, but Revendreth is a really cool zone with what is, in my opinion, an arguably better story than Bastion. It's got interesting characters, like the dude who has these little people hold up an umbrella for him, and I find that quite charming. It even includes a carriage to take you along parts of the zone.
Dolly and Dot are my best friends. They pull my wagon through dunes of sand. They have small teeth and they love to eat. They're the best packers in all the land.
You're singing that twice while you're washing your hands, right? Good. More importantly though, we've got a chance to test out the second round of Covenant abilities from the Venthyr. So in contrast to the mostly bright Azerite-like effects of the Kyrian, the Venthyr Covenant abilities are most decidedly crimson. Red explosions and red arrows and red chain lightning something or other. We're getting more to test and more to give feedback on earlier in the testing phases, unlike in the BFA where we only managed to really test out Azerite traits during the beta. I didn't get a chance to shill for Blizzard on this front, so right now, I'm going to recognize them for being more in front of the conversation than ever before, with healthy previews before they first appear on the alpha, and not the pre-patch of the expansion. However, in spite of that, there's a growing fear that I have, and I want to share, that Blizzard is close to repeating history with regards to Soulbinds, the 12 kind of sort of mini talent trees, and the possible, dozens or hundreds of conduits. These things that when you put it all together can affect our gameplay and quality of life as well beyond the cosmetics and the Covenant abilities that, at the moment, are the factors that we consider when choosing what team to play for. I talked about this in a recent video that features what little we know about Soulbinds, but I'm going to press the issue here. We need a more clear vision of what Soulbinds intend to do for our characters, because if you're choosing to be Kyrian because of the look, but you happen to not like the ability for your class, Soulbinds might offer a way to make this bad or not so optimal ability good and more optimal. What if conduits have a way to manipulate our Covenant abilities or add effects that synergize with them? But we don't know for sure if it will, or how it's going to do it. And this conversation isn't being talked about much because we're so focused on these abilities we get so early on, and it's great that we get them early on, but even if we don't get to actually test Soulbinds in the alpha until after all 4 zones and Covenants are complete, we need more information. I don't like using statements like these, but Soulbinds risk being the Azerite 2.0 of Shadowlands. a massive system that's tested way too late to pivot on, and I think we need to be louder about voicing this concern. Now you might be thinking, oh, but Soul, it's just the alpha, and that's the point. Real quick on some WoW Classic news, this week Blizzard opened up layering technology on selected impacted realms while restricting character creation on said realms to avoid filling them up and causing a repeat of the same mistake. You might not have heard a whole lot of chatter about it because, well, it's hard to complain about how the sanctity of WoW Classic has been defiled when you're too busy playing WoW Classic. MMO Champion compiled an incomplete list of the abilities that are moving away from straight up AoE to a 5 to 8 target cleave. I'm going to put the list right up on screen and let's just go through it together. For Death Knights, Consumption, Bone Storm, and Frost Scythe have a target cap. For Demon Hunters, Blade Dance. For Druids, the feral version of Swipe and Brutal Slash. For Hunters, Multi-Shot, Barrage, Carve, and Butchery. Not included here is Beast Cleave, but it's called Cleave, so that's pretty obvious. For Mage, Frozen Orb. For Monks, Fist of Fury and Spinning Crane Kick unless you're a Brewmaster. For Paladins, Divine Storm. For Rogues, Blade Flurry and Shuriken Storm. For Shaman, Meteor. I guess Shaman get Meteor, that's kinda cool, okay. For Warlocks, it's Fellstorm. And for Warriors, it's Whirlwind, Bladestorm, and Ravager. So the rebalancing is definitely there, but not quite as across the board as some of us had feared. I think this does decently at curbing the most extreme situations where you could perform very high sustained AoE, and at least tank threat isn't going to be affected at all. I guess the biggest loss would be if you're running really old content and you have to either swap to an AoE talent or just hit your cleave button a couple more times.
Oh, the horror.
This list might not be complete, by the way, so share what might be missing in a comment below. Flying in the world of Warcraft is going to be removed in Shadowlands. I obviously tricked you. Oh, I'm so clever. Artisan flying training is going to be removed in Shadowlands, meaning that after learning flight initially, your next upgrade will bump you to it will bump you from 150% flying speed to 310, which is the current max, and that's going to cost 5,000 gold. Not just that, but the old Pathfinder achievements that were required to fly in Draenor and the Broken Isles are no longer. So, you people who got Pathfinder achievements back when they were current are suckers, and I feel victorious because I sat on my ass, I did nothing, and now I'll be able to fly in Draenor and the Broken Isles for free. Cool. Now I can go and complete all that content that you already did, but I can fly while doing it. I'm still winning, right? The Alliance was up in arms this week, and yeah, I guess I'm specifically calling out the Alliance because just keep listening. They were pissed over some data mine text that painted the Horde in a different light. Maybe a positive light. Maybe probably a ridiculous caricature of their perspective, I don't know. But a Wowhead article talks about these new introduction lines that briefly describe the Horde and the non-allied races. The original Horde line reads as this: "You are part of the powerful Horde, a united group of disparate races seeking to carve their own path within Azeroth." But the new line reads, "You're a soldier of the mighty Horde, a diverse band of races from across Azeroth who fight for freedom and honor." It's kind of sort of PC, but okay, I can live with it. But let's read on. The original Undead introduction line reads, "You bear the curse of the Forsaken, returned from the grave. It is your choice what you do with the second chance of life." The new line reads, "As one of the Undead Forsaken, you have been reanimated by dark magic. Though shunned by the living, you tirelessly strive to protect them." What? Before we get into the context as to why this ultimately doesn't mean anything, yeah, these lines are pretty freaking ridiculous. Like, the narrator can't be saying this with a straight face, unless, well, the narrator is someone else.
As one of the Undead Forsaken, you have been reanimated by dark magic. Though shunned by the living, you tirelessly strive to protect them.
Okay, that sounds a little bit better thanks to the obviously sarcastic tone. But anyway, first off, lead narrative designer Steve Denuser came out to say that these lines are bad and that they will be changed in the future alpha build, and that this is the alpha, get over yourselves, yada yada yada. But second, these so-called original lines, They sound better than the new ones, right? So I'm willing to bet a very small amount of money that these current lines were actually the original ones, and then they were replaced with, well, what were like the old ones in this data mined info. But somewhere between the alpha builds, the new lines became old lines, the old ones became new, you know, something got messed up, something got borked. That also means that at one point, someone thought that this was a good idea, but you know, whatever. And as for the final bit of context, I had to look a little bit deeper into just where these lines appeared, because at first I thought that these lines were going to be the normal race introductions, but not so much so. These are part of the Exile's Reach scenario, and are just a few lines that are glossed over before getting into the exposition that explains what you're doing on this boat. The perspective itself is already pretty campy, and I do agree that the undead lines are way over the top, but I think of Exile's Reach as a kind of, I don't know, faction propaganda piece that gets new players all excited about being a part of their faction before morally gray reality sets in. Whatever the case though, there's a happy ending, so story's over, let's move on. This past week or two has been peppered with allied race speculation as usual. OMG guys, Covenant allied races are a-comin', says speculation from the likes of Mr. GM and Bellular, and the proof, folks, is like right there, look at the arrows, whatever. So it could happen. More blue people, or Swolkin, or vampy people, thank you. Gargoyles, deer people, you know, any of these could be coming to a conversation near you. A conversation about, once again, repping up with this race or covenant, unlocking the race, and then leveling them up from level 10 or whatever. Like,
Oh, hello, I'm a blue person who lived and died and have been working for eons to become ascended, but you know what? Screw it, I'm gonna join the Alliance because blue.
I'm only speaking for myself here when I suggest that maybe, just maybe, let's have allied races as a feature take a break for like 2 years or so, okay? The context behind the first generations of allied races, I think those made sense, you know, because there's a war and the locals are getting caught up in it. We don't know how the Shadowlands story is going to play out yet, but what is there to explain why any one of these races who have lived and died want to return to the land of the living again? I've always said that the story only needs to be written for it to make sense, even if we might not agree with it. Now, I might regret this later, but I don't think that any story can be written that would make me agree that these races would give a single flying f*** about Azeroth. Instead, I would like to see Blizzard work more on the current races. We're seeing tons of character customization being data mined, and I'm going to be pretty excited to play around with this on the alpha. But on a side note, I just want to point out that I haven't talked about it much because certain features like eyes, eye color, and skin tone have been controversial, and I at least want to wait for what we know that Blizzard wants to put in our hands. But check out the hair, right? And the beard selections. Ooh, and this hair right here? Dude, toss a coin to that Adonis, yeah. Many fans were disappointed to learn that the current round of allied races would not get the same treatment. So when the time comes and Blizzard starts considering what to do about adding additional races in Shadowlands, speak up and encourage them to instead consider taking the work that would go into new allied races and put that work into even more character customization or race-related quests. Like I said, let these current races breathe a little bit, instead of bombarding us with more races that, in my opinion, don't have that close connection to Azeroth that ties them into the notion that they are a champion of Azeroth. Finally, there aren't as many cool visuals to show you other than, you know, a whole freaking zone, which I should mention doesn't have a fully complete story. Like literally, the end gives you this placeholder that asserts stuff isn't complete. The Covenant Sanctum for the Venthyr looks like my house in Animal Crossing, you know, that sort of thing. But the team over at WoW had managed to data mine some of the upcoming set pieces for Castle Nathria, the first raid in Shadowlands. I'm going to feature the plate and mail sets here, so have a look. There's one glaring problem that I noticed when looking at these. There are 6 colors of the same set, so let's count. Raid Finder, Normal, Heroic, Mythic, Gladiator, and Elite Gladiator. So between all of these, which ones are Mythic and Elite Gladiator? Because in past seasons in BFA, we've seen that those two sets have enhancements like to the gloves and the shoulders and helmet, but nothing's here so far. So I get it, blah blah blah, it's the alpha and so on, but I at least wanted to bring up this concern. I hope that later we get to see 2 out of these 6 variations have a bit of a dolled up look. Beyond that though, I'm still pretty happy with the overall direction of making the gear match its source, but I'm just as excited to see future patches when maybe, just maybe, we'll see 12 unique armor sets to celebrate each class and not just armor type. So that's it for the normal news. It's nice to have a bit more to talk about today, and on a personal update, it's done. All 12 classes have completed 5 chest runs of both Orgrimmar and Stormwind, and boy, it's a relief. And at the same time, this has been one of the most fun and fulfilling WoW experiences that I've had of all time, which sounds ludicrous.
Disturbing the peace family.
Yeah, it is that kind of ludicrous, but there is a lot to talk about on that subject. For now though, I need to get caught up with uploading all the commentary for the past few visions, so please bear with a horrific vision spam over the next couple of days. And then later, I'm going to do a grand retrospective on my experiences with some fun data and feedback, and how this is going to set expectations for Torghast in Shadowlands. So yeah, you made it to the end, and let's do some giveaway stuff. Another simple contest where I shall pick 3 winners from the US region to win 1 month of game time. To enter, in a comment below, answer this one question. What class do you think you're going to level first in Shadowlands? There's no obligation to be a subscriber to the channel or to Twitch or whatever, but boy, would that make me feel good. I'm going to choose the 3 winners next week here on the weekly, so don't forget to check back. And yeah, definitely don't do that, because it's funny. Over half of the winners that I get, they don't check back. So, I mean, okay, that's not very funny at all, actually. But oh well, good luck folks at home and on the toilet. That's going to be a wrap, so stay tuned for next week when I do a few featurettes on Torghast runs with each class that will be truly uncut. Not the buggy Twitch raw download that some of you guys gave me a lot of crap for, but the aim is to give you, the viewer, a taste of not exactly how awesome or overpowered Torghast can be, but how much it can suck to fail at a run. And I have a feeling that I'm going to fail at just about all of these runs. There will of course be more alpha coverage as it comes in, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitch for more of this and all things Warcraft. We'll see you next week. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.